This video will review graphing linear inequalities. We've been working on this for about 3 days in class, so hopefully you guys noticed that this is actually the extra credit paper that I gave you. So if you're viewing this video and working along with me, then you should have your extra credit completed, and remember it is due Monday. So make sure you show all your work. Hopefully watching this video and working along with me will help you guys out. Don't forget, this will be on your CBA, which you have on Friday. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. What you guys should hopefully notice is that when you look at number 1 and you compare it to number 2, and this should say number 3, they're different. Number 1 is already written in slope-intercept form, which should be a relief to you. So remember, in slope-intercept form, it's a little bit easier to graph because it gives me B, which is your y-intercept. So in this case, that's 1. So I'm going to go ahead and put a point on 1. And then I have my slope. So remember, your slope is the number that sits in front of x. So in this case, it's -2. And I'm going to go ahead and put that over 1 so that you guys can remember. So starting from your y-intercept, you fall 2 and run 1 to the right. So I'm going to put a point right there, and that's my slope of a -2. Now if you want to, you can go ahead and extend that pattern. You could go down 2 and over 1 again and put another point, and down 2 and over 1 again and put another point. That just helps me make sure that my line is nice and straight. So since this is a linear inequality, the symbol right here is important. So since this is a less than or equal to sign, I know that this line is going to be a solid line. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my solid line. You guys should be using some sort of straight edge to make sure that line is nice and straight, and extend it all the way across your coordinate plane. Alright, so we've graphed our line, but the part we still need to work on is where do we shade? So in this case, this is where I told you guys to choose that test point, and I suggest using 0, 0. So I'm going to take my equation, or my inequality, y is less than or equal to -2x plus 1, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace x and y with 0, 0. And I'm going to just kind of look at the relationship that I'm left with. So I have 0 is less than or equal to -2 times 0 plus 1. And if I simplify that, I get 0 is less than or equal to 1. So you ask yourself, well, is 0 less than or equal to 1? And the answer is yes. Okay, so if the answer is yes, then what you want to do is you want to ask yourself, do I shade where 0, 0 is? And the answer is yes. So I know that the line should be shaded on this left side, because remember that shaded area represents your solutions to the inequality. And since 0, 0 was part of my solutions, I know that it should be colored in. Okay? Alright, so that's number 1. Number 2 is a little bit different because it's written in standard form. Remember, standard form is when these are on the same side. So I'm actually going to graph this using my intercepts. So I'm going to start by covering up x, and I'm just going to look at y. So I have -5y is less than 20. So if I was to solve for y, I would get -4. So -4 is going to be my y-intercept. So I am going to take and I'm going to put a point on -4. So I'm going to count down 1, 2, 3, 4 on the y-axis, and I'm going to put a point. Now I'm going to find my x-intercept. So I'm going to cover up y, and I'm going to solve for x. So I have 2x less than 20, so that would make x 10. So now, if you notice, I can't really graph 10 on here because this coordinate plane, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only goes up to 5. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 would be way over here on this coordinate plane. And since I'm kind of sketching here as a review for you guys, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so looking at my symbol now. So look at your symbol. you have a less than sign. So this time I know that my line should be dashed. Okay? So I have a dashed line. That means the things that fall on the line are not part of my solution. Okay? So from here, I'm going to have to shade. So I'm still going to use a test point like I did on the last one. So I have 2 times 0 minus 5 times 0 is less than 20. So that would be 0 is less than 20. So is that true? Yes, 0 is less than 20. So if the answer is yes, you're going to shade where 0, 0 is on the graph. So that would be this part up here above that graph, or that line. And remember, all the things that fall in the shaded area are part of your solution. Okay, so what I want you to do now is I want you to pause and I want you to do number 8 on your own. And then you can start the video and check your work. Okay, so this one was a little bit different. I went ahead and put it in slope-intercept form just to remind you guys of a few things. So the first thing I did was subtract x from both sides, and then when I divided by that -3 to get y alone, I had to remember to reverse my inequality. So that's why it becomes y is greater than 1/3 x. Then to graph this, I put my point on the origin, which is 0, 0. I rose 1 and I ran 3. This is a dashed line because this was just greater than. Now, when I go to plug in 0, 0, I get that 0 is greater than 0, which is not true. However, 0, 0 is on my dashed line. So remember, a dashed line tells you that the points on that line are not part of the solution. But that doesn't help me decide where to shade. So the greater than sign means that all the numbers that are greater than that point should work. And the numbers that are greater than that would be above it. And that is why I shaded above this line. Okay? All right, so that was 3 examples of graphing by hand. You had to do everything. So let's look at the next 2 examples. Now on the next 2 examples, they give you a graph and you're having to choose the correct equation. So let's go ahead and look at number 4. So we did this in class when we did the matching activity, and all the ones in our matching activity were written like this. They're written in standard form. So we're going to use the same process that we used then. So the first thing that we did was we determined if the line was dashed or solid. This is a solid line, so what that tells me is that my symbol has to have the line under it, which all of these have it, so that doesn't help me. The next thing that we did was we went ahead and we labeled our intercepts. So my y-intercept here is at -4, and my x-intercept is at +4. So what we want to do from here is we want to see which of these equations give me those intercepts. So let's look at A. So if I cover up x and I look for my y-intercept is -4, which is good because that's what it is on my graph. But when I cover up y, I notice that my x-intercept is also -4 for that answer choice. So I know that the answer cannot be A because my x-intercept on my graph is positive. So let's go ahead and look at B. Well, A and B are almost exactly the same. The only difference is the inequality symbol. So I know it's not B. So I'm looking at C and D. The question here is which symbol is correct? Okay, so let's go ahead and plug in our 0. So if 0, I'm comparing 0 to 4. Okay, is 0, 0 shaded? No, it is not shaded. So I need my statement, the answer, to be no. So is 0 less than or equal to 4? Yes. So I know that it's not C because 0 was not shaded. So I need to say that 0 is greater than or equal to 4 because that is not true. That is why this is shaded away, because the origin was not part of my solution set, which is why the answer is D. Okay, so let's look at number 5. So for number 5, hopefully you guys are breathing a sigh of relief because we see a horizontal line. And if you see a horizontal line, you're automatically saying that is HOI, okay? If you've had me all semester, last semester, you've heard this several times, you know HOI stands for horizontal, which that is a horizontal line. It has 0 slope, and that means the equation has to only have a y. It should say y equals, or in this case, we're going to have y and then our inequality symbol. So what that allows me to do is automatically cross off A and C, because those say X. So I know it's B or D. So we see a dashed line, so that's why those symbols don't have the little line under it. It's kind of hard to tell, but that is dashed. And then it's shaded below. So the numbers below that line would be less than -2. So my answer would then be B. Okay, I hope that you guys are starting to get a handle on the linear inequalities. If you're still struggling, please come in for tutorials. I have tutorials Monday through Friday in the mornings at 6:45. And then afternoon is by appointment only. For the most part, I am only here 1 or 2 days a week after school. So please talk to me if you need some extra help because I am here to help. You can also email me. All right, guys, you have a great evening.